The following presentation is based on extensive research, private interviews, recovered documents, and publicly available records. While we strive to provide accurate information, some details may have been altered to protect the privacy and safety of parties involved. This documentary is intended for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not meant to pass judgment or cast blame on any individual or entity. The content you are about to witness is the subject of real-life events that may be disturbing and sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. In this episode, we bring to light a bone-chilling case of a mother whose world shattered when her son vanished under mysterious circumstances. Prepare for a mystery of tragedy and horror. This is the disappearance of Jacob Thompson. Daniel and Emma Thompson were high school sweethearts. Daniel was a devoted husband and father, and a dedicated architect who worked tireless hours to provide for his family. Emma was known for her vivacious spirit and was a skilled typist by the time they married. Both were devoted parents to Jacob, their imaginative and energetic little boy. By all accounts, they were a very happy family sharing an idyllic life. All that changed on a fateful evening when young Jacob went missing under mysterious circumstances. What Emma claims to have witnessed on that haunting night would defy all rational explanation, causing her life to unravel at every seam. On February 5th, 1986, Daniel packed his things for a work trip and picked up his son to hug him goodbye. Little did he know this would mark the beginning of an unending ordeal that would test the limits of his sanity. A little more than 3 hours after Daniel departed, Emma Thompson made a call to 911. Emma initially apologized to the operator, hoping this was all a silly mishap with no serious cause for concern. She was playing hide and seek with her son, but had been unable to find him for the past 3 hours. With her husband out of town and another snowy night fast approaching, she didn't know what else to do. She ultimately reported 6-year-old Jacob missing from their suburban home, and police were dispatched to investigate the scene. They found a spotless home where she gave the same story. As more and more officers arrived and the scale of the investigation grew, so did Emma's panic. Initial investigations revealed no signs of forced entry or foul play. Nothing was out of place. Despite the heavy snowfall, there was no indication that anyone visited or disturbed the property. There was over a foot of snow on the ground, however it was completely undisturbed with no clues or footprints leading to or from the house. What little information Emma was able to provide only brought more questions. Daniel Thompson was captured on CCTV checking into a hotel across the country in the hours leading up to the 911 call. He would not receive the devastating news until the following morning. He was quickly ruled out as a suspect in Jacob's disappearance. Emma's witness statements were perplexing. Even so, police crew tirelessly searched for Jacob on the Thompson property. It was suggested that Jacob could have gotten himself stuck somewhere in the home, like the chimney, but they found nothing. The police could not definitively conclude Emma's involvement in anything nefarious, but her increasingly manic behavior became extremely suspicious. During interviews with police, she acknowledged her story didn't make sense and often considered whether she had completely lost her mind. Under their intense interrogations and constant scrutiny, Emma would eventually stop speaking altogether. Still, there was no evidence of any wrongdoing on her part. All interviews, especially Daniel's, indicated Emma was a loving mother who would never do anything to harm Jacob. She had clean records and no prior history. With no motive or evidence, the investigation went nowhere. Rumor and speculation endlessly circulated their small suburban community. In spite of their years together, Daniel could not grapple with her first-hand account. He struggled to rationalize with her story, likely contributing to her weakened mental state and spiraling decline. The entire community believed she knew more than she was saying, that she had something to do with Jacob's disappearance. Their marriage quickly disintegrated, leaving Emma alone to splinter completely. Believing she may have answers locked away somewhere in her mind, she committed herself to a mental institution where sadly she only deteriorated further. The rumors had spread to staff long before she was ever admitted. Whether or not she was pretending to be insane, they were already convinced she did something horrible to Jacob. Though she constantly made efforts to find answers, no one ever gave her serious attention or support. The treatment procedures Emma received were particularly crude, experimental, or outright cruel. Abuse and overmedication was the norm at the time. Electric shock treatment was prevalent and primitive, and lights would dim throughout the complex whenever they used heavy doses. Without any real social support, Emma quickly unraveled into hysterical fits during her sessions with staff. Instead of receiving the answers she hoped for, her horrors were compounded with institutional torture and denial. As the years went on, Emma clung to the fractured memory of Jacob's disappearance by raving constantly about hide and seek. She was quickly labeled an instigator and kept secluded from others. She spent most of her time waiting alone in the dark, losing weeks at a time without remembering anything that happened. Unable to reason with what they believed was a spiraling, paranoid delusion, Emma was prescribed more and more Thorazine. Eventually, she lost the mental capacity to articulate her thoughts and shuffled aimlessly throughout the complex. She remained without a visitor until her death of liver failure in 2007, the result of decades of overmedication and psychiatric neglect. She passed just before the facilities shut down. More than half of her life was spent in a daze of medication and presumptuous institutional cross-examination, all anchored to the reality that Jacob was gone without explanation. Authorities have always acknowledged the possibility of an abduction or involvement of an unknown third party, but with no leads, the case has remained cold, haunting both investigators and the public for decades. The Thompson house never sold and was eventually torn down. A skilled team of forensic experts combed the house before and after its demolition. No trace of Jacob was ever found. Daniel Thompson lost himself in his work for over a decade, remarrying 12 years after the nightmare began, believing his first wife had murdered their son. He was somehow able to carry on after Jacob's disappearance, although his absence that fateful night would haunt him until his death. With the death of Emma Thompson in 2007, volunteers and loved ones lost hope of ever finding Jacob. Lost to obscurity through decades of endless speculation, the story of Jacob Thompson became local folklore, a cautionary tale told to disobedient children. The local search was long forgotten. The disappearance of Jacob Thompson remains a baffling case. It's a chilling reminder that mystery lingers in the shadows of the everyday. Was there an unknown third party? Was Jacob the victim of his mother's deteriorating mental state? Or does a sinister truth lie hidden in the depths of this tragic tale? Without a body or concrete evidence, it's difficult to determine what truly transpired. We may never know the truth. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next video. Remember, the world is full of unsolved mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, stay curious, but always be wary, venturing out into the chill darkness.